Meet our hero, Andre, 48 years old, successful in his career, respected by colleagues, financially stable, living what many would consider a good life. But when it comes to sexual health, he becomes completely silent. He's deeply worried about changes he's been noticing in his body. He feels profound embarrassment about discussing these intimate matters. He actively avoids the topic even during routine medical appointments with his doctor. And this silence, this choice to remain quiet and pretend everything is fine, is costing him dearly. It's costing him his confidence as a man. It's damaging the deep connection he once had with his partner. It's eroding the quality of intimacy in his relationship. And it's creating an invisible wall between who he is and who he wants to be. The taboo around male sexual health is absolutely real. It's pervasive. It's deeply embedded in our culture, and it's holding back far too many men from living the full, healthy, connected lives they deserve. Hello, and welcome to another video here on the channel. Today, we're going to tackle one of the most important yet least discussed topics in men's health, something that affects millions of men worldwide but remains shrouded in silence, shame, and unnecessary suffering. We're going to break the taboo around male sexual health and empower you to take powerful, confident control of this crucial aspect of your life. If you're new here, please subscribe and turn on notifications, because I'm committed to bringing you honest, practical, science-based content about men's health, relationships, and quality of life. And if this video resonates with you, if you find value in what we discussed today, please leave a like to help other men discover this conversation that could change their lives. Let's go back to Andre for a moment. On the surface, everything looks perfect. He has a successful career, a loving partner, responsibilities he manages well, respect from his peers. But behind closed doors, Andre is struggling. He's noticed that his sexual desire isn't what it used to be. Erections are less reliable. Sometimes they don't happen at all. Sometimes they fade at inconvenient moments. He feels less energetic, less vital, less like the man he remembers being just a few years ago. His partner has noticed the distance, the decreased frequency of intimacy, the subtle but undeniable shift in their physical connection, but neither of them talks about it. Andre tells himself it's just stress, just aging, just temporary, that it will pass, that it's not a big deal, that real men don't need to discuss these things. He considers mentioning it to his doctor during his annual checkup, but when the moment comes, he freezes, makes an excuse, changes the subject, and leaves the office with his secret intact and his problem unaddressed. This is the reality for countless men. Andre is not alone. In fact, studies show that the vast majority of men experiencing sexual health issues wait months or even years before seeking help, and many never seek help at all. They suffer in silence. They make excuses. They normalize dysfunction. They avoid intimacy to hide their difficulties. They damage their relationships. They lose confidence. They feel isolated and ashamed, all because they cannot bring themselves to speak about something that should be as normal to discuss as blood pressure or cholesterol. Today, we're going to change that narrative. We're going to understand why men stay silent, what that silence costs them, and most importantly, how to break through that barrier and take control of your sexual health with confidence and clarity. So why do men stay silent about sexual health issues? Let's examine the deep-rooted cultural, psychological, and practical reasons that keep men like Andre trapped in silence. First, and perhaps most powerfully, there are cultural expectations around masculinity. From a very young age, boys are taught implicitly and explicitly that real men are strong, invulnerable, sexually capable, always ready, always performing, never weak, never struggling. Sexual potency becomes intertwined with masculine identity itself. To admit sexual difficulty feels like admitting you're not a real man, that you're inadequate, that you're failing at something fundamental to your identity. This cultural programming runs so deep that many men would rather suffer indefinitely than risk being seen as less masculine. The fear is not just about the problem itself, it's about what admitting the problem might mean about who you are as a man. Second, there's an intense fear of judgment. Men worry about how they'll be perceived if they talk about sexual issues. Will their partner think less of them? Will their doctor dismiss their concerns or make them feel foolish? Will friends or family members somehow find out and judge them? This fear is often irrational, but feels very real. In our minds, we imagine worst-case scenarios, humiliation, rejection, ridicule, and these imagined consequences keep us silent even when the rational part of our brain knows we should speak up. The anticipation of judgment becomes more powerful than the actual problem itself. Third, there's a profound lack of knowledge and education. Most men have never received comprehensive, accurate education about male sexual health beyond the basics of reproduction. They don't know what's normal and what's not. They don't know when to be concerned. They don't know what questions to ask. They don't know what resources are available. They don't know that many sexual health issues are highly treatable. This knowledge gap creates uncertainty, and uncertainty breeds avoidance. If you don't know whether something is serious or normal, it's easier to pretend it's not happening than to confront it and potentially discover bad news. Ignorance becomes a shield against uncomfortable truths. Fourth, embarrassment plays a huge role. Sex is still considered private, taboo, something that happens behind closed doors and isn't discussed openly. Even in intimate relationships, many couples never truly talk openly about their sexual needs, desires, difficulties, or changes. If we can't talk about sex with the person we're having sex with, how can we possibly talk about sexual problems with a doctor or healthcare provider? The embarrassment is compounded by the clinical nature of medical consultations. Having to describe intimate symptoms to a relative stranger, even a medical professional, feels deeply uncomfortable for many men. They'd rather avoid the conversation entirely than endure that temporary discomfort. And fifth, there's a dangerous tendency to ignore or minimize symptoms in their early stages. Men are notorious for avoiding doctors generally, but this tendency is even stronger when it comes to sexual health. When sexual issues first appear, they're often subtle and intermittent. A man might notice one instance of erectile difficulty and tell himself it was just because he was tired, stressed, had too much to drink, wasn't in the mood. He rationalizes it away and forgets about it. Then it happens again a few weeks later, and again he finds an excuse. Over months and years, the problem becomes more frequent and more severe. But by that point, the pattern of avoidance is deeply established, and the shame has grown proportionally with the problem. What could have been addressed easily early on becomes a major issue that feels overwhelming to confront. Now let's talk about the real consequences of this silence. Because staying quiet about sexual health issues isn't neutral or harmless. It has serious, tangible, cascading effects on multiple areas of your life. First and most obviously, untreated sexual health issues escalate over time. Many conditions that cause sexual dysfunction are progressive. Cardiovascular problems worsen, hormonal imbalances deepen, psychological patterns become more entrenched, relationship dynamics deteriorate. What could have been reversed or managed easily with early intervention becomes more difficult, more expensive, more invasive to treat later. Some conditions, if left untreated long enough, can cause permanent damage. By staying silent, you're not protecting yourself from a problem. You're allowing that problem to grow stronger and more difficult to defeat. Second, intimacy in your relationship suffers profoundly. When sexual connection decreases or becomes problematic, the emotional intimacy between partners often deteriorates as well. Your partner may feel rejected, unattractive, unwanted, or confused about why the physical relationship has changed. You may feel guilty, ashamed, defensive, or distant. Neither of you talks about it openly, so assumptions and resentments build. The bedroom becomes a source of tension rather than connection. Over time, this creates emotional distance that extends beyond the bedroom into all aspects of the relationship. Many relationships that end or become unhappy can trace part of their decline back to unaddressed sexual issues that created a widening gap between partners. Third, your mental health takes a significant hit. Sexual dysfunction is strongly linked to depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and decreased quality of life. When you're constantly worried about sexual performance, when you're avoiding intimacy out of fear, when you're comparing yourself to your younger self or to imagined standards, when you're carrying shame and secrecy, it wears on your mental and emotional well-being. You may become irritable, withdrawn, less confident in all areas of life, not just sexually. The stress of hiding the problem can be as damaging as the problem itself. And because you're not talking about it, you're dealing with all of this psychological burden alone, without support, without perspective, without relief. Fourth, staying silent often means missing underlying health conditions that are causing the sexual symptoms. Erectile dysfunction, for example, is often an early warning sign of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, hormonal disorders, or other serious health conditions. Your body is trying to tell you something important, sending you a signal that something needs attention, but by ignoring the sexual symptom, you're also ignoring the potentially serious health issue behind it. Addressing sexual health proactively can literally save your life by catching conditions early when they're most treatable. And fifth, silence robs you of solutions that exist and could dramatically improve your quality of life. We live in an era where sexual health issues are better understood and more treatable than ever before. There are medications, therapies, lifestyle interventions, hormonal treatments, psychological approaches, surgical options, numerous paths to improvement and resolution. But none of these solutions can help you if you never speak up and access them. Every day you remain silent is a day you're unnecessarily suffering when help is available. That's perhaps the saddest consequence of all, suffering that doesn't need to happen simply because of an unwillingness to have a conversation. So how do we break this pattern? How do we move from silence to action? Let me give you practical, specific guidance on how to start these crucial conversations, first with yourself, then with your partner, and then with your healthcare provider. Let's start with the conversation you need to have with yourself, because that's where everything begins. You need to get honest with yourself about what you're experiencing, why it matters, and what staying silent is costing you. Take some time in private, grab a notebook or your phone, and answer these questions honestly. What specific sexual health changes have I noticed? Be concrete. Decreased desire? Erectile difficulties? Premature ejaculation? Delayed ejaculation? Pain? Decreased pleasure? Write it down. When did these changes start? How frequent are they? Are they getting worse? Then ask yourself, why have I been avoiding addressing this? What am I afraid will happen if I talk about it? And most importantly, what is this silence costing me? How is it affecting my confidence, my relationship, my happiness, my sense of self? When you articulate these things clearly to yourself, the abstract fear becomes concrete, manageable, something you can address rather than something vague and overwhelming that keeps you paralyzed. Next, create a simple self-assessment checklist. Monitor your sexual health just like you would monitor other health metrics. Track frequency of sexual thoughts or desire, quality of erections when they occur, satisfaction with sexual encounters, stress levels, sleep quality, exercise habits, relationship satisfaction. This data helps you see patterns, identify triggers, measure whether things are improving or declining, and gives you concrete information to share with healthcare providers later. It transforms the problem from something shameful and vague into something observable and addressable. Now, the conversation with your partner. This is often the scariest conversation, but it's also potentially the most healing and connecting. Here's how to approach it. Choose a time when you're both relaxed, not in bed, not right before or after a sexual encounter, somewhere neutral and private where you won't be interrupted. Start by expressing your intention clearly. You might say something like, I want to talk with you about something that's been on my mind and is important to our relationship. I'm feeling vulnerable about this, but I trust you and I want us to work through it together. Nay, be honest and specific about what you're experiencing. Use I statements rather than blaming or bringing her into it prematurely. For example, I've noticed that my sexual desire isn't what it used to be, or I've been having some difficulty with erections, and it's been causing me stress and affecting how I feel about myself and our intimacy. Acknowledge the impact on the relationship. You might say, I know this has probably affected you too, and I'm sorry if my silence or withdrawal has hurt you or made you feel rejected. That was never my intention. Then explicitly invite partnership. Say something like, I want to address this, and I'd love your support. This isn't just my problem, it's something we can work on together. Can we talk about how this has been for you and figure out next steps together? This approach removes shame, creates collaboration instead of isolation, shows vulnerability, which actually strengthens intimacy, and transforms a potential conflict into a shared challenge you're facing as a team. Be prepared for various reactions. Your partner might be relieved that you're finally talking about it. She might have her own fears and insecurities that come up. She might need time to process. She might want to help immediately. Stay open. Listen without defensiveness. Remember, you're on the same side. Often, partners are far more understanding, supportive, and relieved than we imagine they'll be. The conversation we fear is almost always less painful than the months or years of silence and distance. Now, the conversation with your doctor Many men find this even more difficult than talking to their partner, but it's absolutely essential. First, understand that doctors have heard it all. Sexual health issues are extremely common, and healthcare providers discuss them routinely. What feels like your unique, shameful secret is, to them, a common medical concern like discussing high blood pressure. You're not shocking them. You're not wasting their time. You're doing exactly what you should be doing by bringing health concerns to a healthcare professional. Prepare for the appointment in advance. Write down your symptoms clearly, when they started, how frequent they are, any patterns you've noticed, medications you're taking, lifestyle factors like stress, sleep, exercise, alcohol use. This preparation helps you communicate clearly even if you feel nervous in the moment. When you're at the appointment, you can simply say, "I've been experiencing some sexual health concerns and I'd like to discuss them." Then refer to your notes and describe what's happening factually. Remember, the more specific and honest you are, the better your doctor can help you. Come prepared with questions. What could be causing these symptoms? What tests or evaluations would you recommend? What are my treatment options? Are there lifestyle changes I should make? Could any of my medications be contributing? Should I see a specialist? Is this potentially related to other health conditions I should be screened for? These questions show you're taking this seriously and engaged in your own health, and they help ensure you leave the appointment with a clear understanding and action plan. If you feel your doctor is dismissive or uncomfortable discussing sexual health, that's information about the doctor, not about the validity of your concerns. Find a different provider who takes men's sexual health seriously. You deserve medical care that addresses all aspects of your health with professionalism and respect. Now, let me give you a powerful 3-step framework to transform your approach to sexual health, from silence and shame to empowerment and action. Step 1 is awareness. You must first become fully aware of what you're experiencing, why it matters, and what resources exist. This means educating yourself about male sexual health from reliable sources, not from random internet forums or advertisements, but from medical organizations, healthcare providers, evidence-based resources. Understand how sexual function works. What can go wrong? What's normal variation versus what warrants attention? What treatment options exist? Knowledge dispels fear and shame. When you understand the physiology, the commonality, the treatability, the problem becomes much less overwhelming. Awareness also means paying attention to your own body and patterns without judgment. Notice what's happening without immediately assigning catastrophic meaning to it. Observe, document, understand. This awareness phase is about moving from unconscious avoidance to conscious understanding. Step 2 is action. Awareness without action changes nothing. Once you understand what's happening and why it matters, you must take concrete steps. This means having the conversations we discussed with yourself, your partner, your doctor. It means scheduling and attending medical appointments. It means being honest during those appointments. It means following through on recommended treatments, whether that's medication, therapy, lifestyle changes, or some combination. It means implementing the specific strategies your healthcare team recommends. Action also means addressing lifestyle factors that impact sexual health. Improving diet, exercising regularly, managing stress, improving sleep, reducing alcohol, quitting smoking if applicable, strengthening your relationship. working on communication and emotional intimacy. These aren't optional nice-to-haves. They're fundamental to sexual health and should be pursued with the same seriousness you'd bring to managing high blood pressure or high cholesterol. Step 3 is accountability. Change requires sustained effort and honest evaluation. Create accountability structures for yourself. This might mean regular check-ins with your partner about how things are improving, scheduled follow-up appointments with your doctor to assess progress and adjust treatment, tracking metrics in a journal or app to see trends over time, joining a support group or working with a therapist who specializes in sexual health, setting specific goals and timelines, and evaluating whether you're meeting them. Accountability keeps you from sliding back into old patterns of avoidance and ensures that you continue moving forward even when it's uncomfortable or progress is slow. It also helps you celebrate wins and identify when something isn't working and needs to be adjusted. Let me be very clear about something important. Taking control of your sexual health is not just about having better erections or more frequent sex, though those may be welcome outcomes. It's fundamentally about reclaiming agency over your own body and life. It's about refusing to let shame dictate your choices. It's about modeling healthy masculinity that includes vulnerability and self-care. It's about strengthening your intimate relationship through honesty and partnership. It's about catching potential health problems early. It's about living fully and authentically rather than in fear and hiding. When you break the silence around sexual health, you're not just solving a physical problem, you're stepping into a more empowered, integrated, honest version of yourself. That's what makes this so important. Let's return to Andre one final time. Imagine that Andre finally makes the decision to speak. He has the conversation with himself and acknowledges that his silence is damaging his confidence, his relationship, and potentially his physical health. He talks with his partner, and though it's difficult and vulnerable, she responds with love, relief, and eagerness to support him. She shares that she's been worried too, that she thought maybe he didn't find her attractive anymore, that she's grateful he's opening up. They feel closer than they have in months. He schedules a doctor's appointment and, with his prepared notes, describes his symptoms clearly. The doctor orders some tests, discovers that Andre has slightly low testosterone and early markers of cardiovascular disease, both very treatable conditions. They create a treatment plan involving lifestyle modifications, possibly hormone therapy, and cardiovascular health management. Over the following months, Andre notices improvements not just in sexual function, but in energy, mood, relationship quality, and overall sense of well-being. But perhaps most importantly, he feels free. Free from the shame, free from the hiding, free from the isolation. He realizes that the scariest part was the silence itself, and that speaking up was actually the beginning of healing. You can be like this version of Andre, the version who decides to speak, to seek help, to take control. It starts with a decision, right now, today, that you will no longer let cultural taboos or personal fear keep you from addressing something so fundamental to your health and happiness. Before we close, I want to emphasize a few critical points. First, sexual health issues are incredibly common and almost always treatable. You're not broken, you're not alone, and there is help available. Second, speaking up is not weakness, it is profound strength and wisdom. It takes courage to be vulnerable, to admit difficulty, to ask for help. That courage is what separates men who suffer unnecessarily from men who take control and improve their lives. Third, the earlier you address sexual health concerns, the better the outcomes. Don't wait for problems to become severe. Address them when they first arise, and you'll have more treatment options, better prognosis, and less suffering overall. Fourth, your sexual health is connected to your overall health. Taking care of one means taking care of the other. And finally, you deserve a full, healthy, satisfying life that includes sexual health and intimacy. You don't have to settle for less than that just because of shame or fear. Now, I have a question for you, and I really need you to answer this in the comments because your participation helps create a community where men can finally start talking openly about these issues. Here's the question. What is your biggest pain when it comes to talking about your sexual health? Is it fear of judgment, embarrassment, not knowing how to start the conversation, worry about what you might discover, fear of being seen as less masculine, something else entirely? Please share honestly in the comments. You can use your real name or a pseudonym if you prefer privacy. But share your experience because when one man speaks up, it gives permission for others to do the same, and collectively we can break down the walls of silence and shame that have kept too many men suffering unnecessarily for far too long. If this video resonated with you, if you found value in this conversation, please hit that like button to help other men find this content. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications because I'll continue creating honest, practical, science-based content about men's health, sexual health, relationships, and living your best life. Thank you for being here, for watching until the end, for caring enough about yourself to seek out this information. Your willingness to learn and grow is already a powerful step in the right direction. Now take the next step. Have that conversation. Make that appointment. Break the silence. Your future self will thank you. I believe in you, and I'm rooting for your success. See you in the next video. Take care. Tentar novamente. Claude pode cometer erros. Confira sempre as respostas. Sonê 4.5